She could not handle basic. My uncle laughed while 30 relatives watched. Then the Green Beret, sitting beside him, looked straight at me and said Lieutenant Colonel Ellison was my instructor. My name is Mara Ellison. I was 48 years old when Victor turned the 4 hardest days of my youth into a joke over hamburgers and fireworks. During my 8th week of basic training, a Red Cross message reached my drill sergeant. My mother had been taken into emergency heart surgery in Georgia. I received 4 days of humanitarian leave. I flew home on a Thursday, sat beside her hospital bed after the operation, and returned before Monday morning formation. I completed basic training. Then I served in the United States Army for 26 years. Some of my work appeared plainly in my personnel record. Other assignments involved units and locations I could not describe at family cookouts. Victor ignored all of it. He told relatives I had panicked, run home, and never returned. He said my mother used family connections to protect me from embarrassment. He repeated the story at birthdays, weddings, funerals, and every 4th of July gathering until silence began to look like confirmation. I rarely corrected him. At first, I believed official records made gossip unimportant. Later, I understood that Victor needed people to believe I had failed. He was not protecting the family story. He was preparing to use my name while making my authority disappear. That 4th of July cookout took place at the Ellison family farm outside Pine Mountain, Georgia. Red, white, and blue paper lanterns hung between oak trees. Children ran through the yard with sparklers. My cousins crowded around folding tables covered with barbecue potatoes, salad, corn, and peach pie. 30 relatives were present. Victor had invited several ForgeLine executives and one special guest. Retired Master Sergeant Gabriel Stone sat at his right hand. Gabriel had spent most of his career in Army Special Forces. Victor introduced him as proof that ForgeLine still understood the people who depended on its rescue equipment. A thick document packet rested near Victor's plate. He called it the Family Protection Resolution. It would make him permanent chief executive of ForgeLine Rescue Systems, suspend my voting authority, and approve the sale of a controlling interest to a private investment group. My mother, Dr. Judith Ellison, had founded ForgeLine with my grandfather. She designed evacuation harnesses after seeing rescuers struggle to move an injured soldier using equipment that had never been built for combat conditions. Before she died, she left me 37% of the voting shares and a special safety veto. Victor received temporary operating control while I completed my final Army assignment. Temporary became 18 months. He stopped sending safety reports. He removed me from the quality committee. He changed my access credentials. Then a Falcon Reach harness failed during a training exercise. Staff Sergeant Caleb Ross fell from a tower and struck the padded deck below. He survived with several fractures. Victor blamed the training team. I asked for the material tests. He refused. Now he wanted my relatives to sign away the only authority capable of forcing a recall. I placed one hand on the document packet. Where is the Falcon Reach failure report? Victor continued cutting his steak. This is a family meeting. ForgeLine is a family company. You have not worked inside the factory for years. I retain safety authority. According to you. According to my mother's trust. Victor looked around the table. Mara enjoys titles. Several relatives smiled uneasily. He lifted his glass. She left Georgia at 20 and came running home before she could finish basic training. My aunt looked toward her plate. One cousin laughed because Victor was laughing. he continued. She could not handle basic. Now she wants to lecture people who actually understand military equipment. Gabriel stopped eating. Victor pointed toward him. Master Sergeant Stone has spent his life in the real army. He knows that field experience matters more than family privilege. My younger cousin Daniel looked at Gabriel. Sir, do you know her? Gabriel did not answer immediately. He studied my face. Then his eyes moved to the old brass whistle hanging from a cord near my collar. I had used it during recovery exercises when wind and rotor noise made shouted commands useless. Gabriel's expression changed. He reached into his shirt pocket and removed a challenge coin. Its edge was scarred and darkened. Where did you get that? I asked. He stood. You gave it to me after Advanced Recovery Course 6. Victor lowered his glass. Gabriel stepped away from the table. Lieutenant Colonel Ellison. Yes, Master Sergeant. His shoulders straightened. Ma'am, you were my instructor. Every conversation in the yard stopped. Even the children seemed quieter beyond the tables. Victor gave a short laugh. You must be confusing her with someone else. Gabriel held up the coin. One side carried the recovery program insignia. The other showed the course number and my initials. She evaluated my team during the final casualty extraction phase. Victor waved one hand. That could have been a civilian workshop. No, sir. Gabriel's voice remained calm. It was an advanced military course for Special Forces personnel. He looked at me. She failed my team on our first attempt. Daniel leaned forward. Why? We reached the extraction point without the simulated casualty. Gabriel turned toward the rest of the table. She told us a fast extraction meant nothing if the person we were sent to recover never arrived. Victor's smile disappeared. Gabriel continued. Years later, that lesson kept my unit from leaving an injured soldier behind. Tell me honestly, if your uncle had turned 4 days beside your mother's hospital bed into proof that you were a coward, would you expose him in front of the entire family, or let him keep talking until everyone understood why he needed that lie? Comment, call him out. If you would confront him at the table or let him talk, if you would give him enough time to destroy his own story. I chose silence. Victor had not yet shown everyone the most dangerous document beside his plate. He pushed the family protection resolution towards me. This changes nothing. It changes what you told the table, Daniel said. Victor ignored him. Mara has not participated in daily operations. She has no basis to block the sale. I asked for the failed harness report. And I told you the accident involved user error. Then show me the test results. His son Preston spoke from the other end of the table. The company cannot release proprietary data during negotiations. I am a voting owner and the designated safety authority. Victor tapped the document. Not after this resolution passes. I looked around the table. Do not sign anything tonight. Victor laughed again, but the sound lacked confidence. She has no answer to the separation record. He removed another document from the packet. It appeared to be a training separation notice bearing my name. The page claimed I had been discharged because I could not adapt to military life. Who gave you that? I asked. A military records specialist. What was the specialist's name? It is listed in the file. You just read the file. Victor's jaw tightened. You are trying to distract everyone. No, I am asking that every page on this table be preserved. He pointed toward the farmhouse. You came here to threaten your family. I came because you requested my signature. And you will not provide it. Not until I see the safety records. Victor turned to the others. Her silence about basic training tells you everything. Gabriel placed the challenge coin beside the false separation notice. No, sir. It tells me she is waiting for you to finish. I picked up neither document. Preserved the cookout video, the resolution, and the separation record. Then I walked away from the table. Gabriel followed me toward the equipment barn. Fireworks began in the distance, faint bursts beyond the tree line. I am sorry, he said, for recognizing me, for sitting beside him. You did not know what he was doing. He offered me a position advising ForgeLine. Did he mention the harness failure? He said a soldier ignored procedure. Did he show you the investigation? No. Did he mention a change in material suppliers? Gabriel stopped. No. The barn door opened before I reached it. Bethany Klein stood inside. She had served as an Army Logistics Warrant Officer before becoming ForgeLine's Director of Quality Control. Her face looked tired. You need to see what Victor locked out of the system. She led us to an old testing room my mother had used before the company built its modern laboratory. A blue length of webbing rested on the steel workbench. One end had torn apart. Is that from Caleb's harness? I asked. Yes. Bethany placed 2 reports beside it. The first carried the original laboratory results. The second was the version sent to investigators. The required webbing had to withstand more than 7,000 pounds of force. The material inside Caleb's harness began failing near 3,200. Gabriel picked up the torn end carefully. That is not a small variation. No, Bethany said, it is a substitution. She opened my mother's old material notebook. Judith had specified the weave density fiber treatment stitching pattern and minimum breaking strength. The new material matched none of them. Who approved the supplier? I asked. Victor. Which company? Blackwater Weave Solutions. I recognized the name from an invoice summary. Who owns it? Bethany turned another page. Preston controls it through 2 holding companies. Victor's son had sold weaker material to the company his father managed. How much cheaper? Gabriel asked. Nearly 60%. How many harnesses shipped? More than 4,000. My throat tightened. Caleb's fall had not been an isolated accident. It was the first warning we knew about. Bethany removed a flash drive from her pocket. I copied the original test files before Victor ordered the server cleaned. Did he ask you to alter the results? He said the sale could not survive a recall. She opened the material approval sheet. My electronic signature appeared at the bottom. I had never seen the document. The approval claimed I authorized Blackwater Weave and accepted the reduced safety margin. Gabriel looked at me. Could anyone use your signature? It came from an old certificate. Bethany nodded. The metadata identifies a scanned instructor qualification from your Army file. Victor had denied the career that produced my authority. Then he used that same career to steal my signature. The approval file had been created while I attended my mother's funeral in Virginia. I was hundreds of miles away. Bethany opened one final email. Victor had sent it to Preston shortly before the 4th of July cookout. Once the family accepts she never completed basic, her signature will matter more than her denial. The lie was not designed merely to make relatives laugh at me. Victor needed them to believe my service was false so he could use my real signature without anyone believing my objection. Outside, fireworks burst above the farmhouse. Inside the old laboratory, a severed blue harness lay beneath my mother's handwritten safety standards. My uncle had asked the family to choose between his word and mine. He did not know the broken material had already chosen for them. The broken material had already chosen for them. The next morning, I met Gabriel at the military hospital, where Staff Sergeant Caleb Ross was recovering. His right leg remained elevated inside a rigid brace. A surgical incision crossed his shoulder. The fall had fractured his pelvis, 2 ribs, and part of his left wrist. He looked younger than I expected. Victor had described him as careless. Nothing in Caleb's file supported that claim. The harness tore during a standard descent, he said. I checked the buckles twice. Did anyone inspect the webbing before the exercise? Our safety lead did. What happened after the fall? A ForgeLine representative collected the equipment. Who? A man named Preston Ellison, Victor's son. Gabriel stood near the window with both hands behind his back. Did Preston ask you to sign anything? Caleb nodded. A statement saying I loaded the harness incorrectly. Did you sign? No. Why not? The photograph showed the strap separating above the stitching. My weight did not cause that. He looked at me. Are there more harnesses like it? Yes. How many? More than 4,000 may contain the same material. His face tightened. I do not want to become the face of a family fight. You will not. I do not want reporters using my injuries to sell a story. They will not receive anything from me without your permission. What do you want, ma'am? To stop the next fall. He watched me carefully. I heard you own part of ForgeLine. I do. Are you trying to take the company from your uncle? I am trying to make the company deserve its contract. Gabriel stepped closer to the bed. She failed me once because I left a simulated casualty behind. Caleb glanced at him. You were one of her students. Yes. What did she say? Gabriel looked toward me. A fast extraction means nothing if the person you were sent to recover never arrives. Caleb gave a tired smile. That sounds expensive for a company to remember. Safety becomes expensive only after someone prices it against profit, I said. I promised him that his medical care would be included in any emergency relief we sought. I also promised that his testimony would remain his choice. Before we left, he reached for my hand. Do not let them call this user error. I will not. Celia Rhodes met us at Bethany's old testing room that afternoon. She brought a federal procurement specialist and a digital examiner. We began with Victor's training separation notice. The document said I had been discharged during basic training for failure to adapt. The form did not exist when I enlisted. The unit designation was wrong. The separation code referred to an administrative category unrelated to training performance. The listed records custodian had never worked for the Army. The file was created on Victor's office computer 2 months before the cookout. My supposed acknowledgement signature came from a military instructor certificate issued more than 15 years later. Celia placed the false record beside my official service history. Basic training completed. 26 years of continuous service. Advanced instructional assignments. Honorable retirement as a lieutenant colonel. Victor did not misunderstand my career. He needed a paper that contradicted it. The Falcon Reach records were worse. Victor removed the approved supplier without consulting the safety committee. Blackwater Weave Solutions replaced the original material at nearly 60% lower cost. The company had no factory. It purchased generic industrial webbing from an overseas distributor, relabeled it, and sold it to ForgeLine at a large markup. Preston controlled Blackwater through 2 holding companies. The official laboratory report showed the substituted material beginning to fail near 3,200 pounds. The report submitted to the government claimed it exceeded 7,000. The digital examiner compared both files. The passing result was created from the failed test. How I asked. Someone copied the format, changed the values, and replaced the laboratory technician's signature. Who accessed the file? Victor's executive account. Bethany looked toward the old workbench. I told him the lot had to be rejected. What did he say? That the contract deadline mattered more than one conservative test. Did you object in writing? 3 times. She opened her archive messages. Victor answered the final warning himself. A recall destroys the sale. Blame the training team and keep shipping. Gabriel read the line twice. He knew after Caleb fell. Yes, Bethany said. We shipped another 600 units afterwards. The financial review traced $5,700,000 through Blackwater. Part paid Preston's company. Part covered Victor's private mortgage. Another portion funded legal and advisory fees connected to the planned sale of ForgeLine. The investment group had not been told about Caleb's accident. It had not been told that the approved material was replaced. It had not been told that my signature was disputed. They were buying a company valued on a contract that could collapse under a recall, Celia said. And Victor wanted the sale completed before anyone tested another harness, I replied. The signature on the material approval had been taken from my Army instructor certificate. The file was uploaded while I attended my mother's funeral in Virginia. Flight records, hotel receipts, and the funeral program placed me hundreds of miles from ForgeLine. Victor used the 2 moments when I returned to family for grief and fear against me. He turned my mother's surgery into proof I abandoned basic training. Then he used her funeral as the date I supposedly approved defective material. Celia asked whether I wanted to file for immediate control of the company. No. You have grounds to request it. I want independent control. That may surprise Victor. I wanted to encourage him. We sent a settlement proposal. I would not demand the chief executive position. I would accept an independent operations board. After the company completed a recall and federal review, I would consider selling part of my ownership under transparent terms. In return, Victor had to suspend Falcon Reach shipments, fund Caleb's medical care preserve, every test record, cancel the investment sale, disclose Blackwater's ownership, and submit to a full audit. Gabriel read the final draft. He will think you are afraid of taking responsibility. He already believes restraint means weakness. What do you expect him to do? Ask me to sign something that cleans the past. Victor answered within 2 days. His attorney sent a document titled Safety Authority Waiver. It claimed I had surrendered my veto 4 years earlier. According to the waiver, I approved Blackwater as an alternate supplier and granted Victor authority to modify material standards. My signature appeared at the bottom. The document referenced Falcon Reach Mark II. That product name did not exist 4 years earlier. It included a lot number created the previous year. The page carried a ForgeLine QR code introduced only 9 months ago. Its electronic certificate came from software released long after the stated signing date. Victor attached a short message. Sign the clean copy and we can protect the company without humiliating the family. Celia requested the native file. Victor's attorney said the original had been archived. The examiner recovered enough metadata from the attachment. The waiver had been created the morning after our settlement proposal. A preserved message between Victor and Preston explained the purpose. If she signs the clean copy now, the old date becomes untouchable. I looked at my name beneath the false terms. Victor did not need me to admit the document was true. He needed one genuine signature close enough to the lie that investors would stop asking when it began. Bethany and I returned to my mother's original laboratory. The building had been closed for years, but her markings remained on the test wall. Load limits, temperature ranges, fiber codes. She wrote directly on surfaces because she believed a safety standard should remain visible where decisions were made. Above the oldest testing frame, one sentence remained in black paint. A safety margin is the distance between profit and a funeral. Bethany touched the torn blue webbing. Judith would have stopped production after the first failed test. She would have stopped it before shipment. I should have gone outside the company sooner. You preserved the original data. After Caleb fell. That matters, but it does not erase what came before. She nodded. I know. We did not turn guilt into innocence. We turned it into testimony. The emergency hearing began the following week in federal court. Victor arrived with Preston 3 attorneys and representatives from the investment group. He claimed the recall request was a family power struggle. He said Caleb's accident resulted from misuse. He said Blackwater met every contract requirement. Then he presented the training separation notice and safety authority waiver. Judge Evelyn Price examined both documents. On what date did Lieutenant Colonel Ellison legally lose her safety authority? 4 years ago, Victor said. Through this waiver? Yes. And her military service requirement? She never satisfied it. The judge lifted the separation notice. You claim she left the Army during basic training. That is what the record shows. Celia placed my official service verification beside it. Judge Price read quietly. Then she looked toward Victor. If Lieutenant Colonel Ellison left during basic training, why does the United States Army identify her as a certifying instructor for Master Sergeant Stone's advanced course more than 15 years later? Victor turned toward Gabriel. The Green Beret he had invited to validate ForgeLine's credibility rose from the gallery. He walked to the witness stand and raised his right hand. The man Victor expected to support the sale was about to explain why the instructor he mocked had once failed him for leaving a wounded soldier behind. The man Victor expected to support the sale raised his right hand and swore to tell the truth. Gabriel stated his name, rank, and years of service. Celia approached him with the burned challenge coin inside a clear evidence sleeve. Do you recognize this coin? Yes. Who gave it to you? Lieutenant Colonel Mara Ellison. When? After I completed Advanced Recovery Course 6. What was her role? She was a senior certifying instructor. Victor leaned toward his attorney. The attorney studied the documents without objecting. Celia displayed Gabriel's official course orders. His name appeared on the student roster. Mine appeared under officer in charge. The course took place more than 15 years after Victor claimed I had abandoned basic training. Judge Price looked at him. Mr. Ellison, how could Lieutenant Colonel Ellison certify an advanced special forces course if she had left the Army during basic training? Victor adjusted his tie. She may have participated as a civilian advisor. Gabriel turned toward him. She had authority to evaluate and fail my team. Did she fail you? Celia asked. Yes. Why? We completed the extraction without the simulated casualty. What did Lieutenant Colonel Ellison tell you? Gabriel looked toward me. She said a fast extraction meant nothing if the person we were sent to recover never arrived. He paused. Years later, my team faced a real extraction after a vehicle fire. One soldier could not walk. Her lesson kept us from leaving him behind. The courtroom remained quiet. An Army records custodian testified next by secure video. She confirmed that I completed basic training, served continuously for 26 years, qualified as an advanced instructor, and retired honorably as a lieutenant colonel. Celia placed Victor's separation notice on the screen. Is this document authentic? No. Why not? The form did not exist on the stated date. The unit designation is incorrect. The separation code is misused, and the listed custodian has never been employed by the Army. The digital examiner traced the file to Victor's office computer. It had been created 2 months before the 4th of July cookout. My acknowledgement signature had been copied from an instructor's certificate issued years later. Judge Price turned toward Victor. Did you create this record? My staff collected information from outside sources. Which sources? I do not remember. Who on your staff handled it? Preston managed many administrative matters. Preston looked at his father. I did not create that file. Victor's first defense had already become an accusation against his son. Bethany took the stand with the torn blue webbing. She identified the original Falcon Reach specification written by my mother. The approved material had to withstand more than 7,000 pounds. Blackwater substitute began failing near 3,200. Who authorized the supplier change? Celia asked. Victor Ellison. Did the safety committee approve it? No. Did Lieutenant Colonel Ellison approve it? No. Victor's attorney stood. The witness cannot know what Ms. Ellison approved privately. Bethany opened the laboratory archive. I know because the approval sheet appeared after the shipment had already begun. The original test results appeared beside the altered report. The failed values had been replaced. The laboratory technician's signature had been copied. Victor's executive account accessed the file before the alteration. Bethany then played the recording she made after Caleb's fall. Victor's voice filled the courtroom. A recall destroys the sale. Blame the training team and keep shipping. No one moved while the recording ended. Judge Price looked at Victor. Did you authorize continued shipment after learning the harness had failed? The accident investigation was incomplete. You instructed your staff to blame the training team. I was protecting hundreds of jobs. Caleb testified from the hospital by video. He explained that he inspected the buckles before the descent. He described the webbing separating above the stitching. Did anyone ask you to accept responsibility? Celia asked. Preston Ellison brought me a statement. What did it say? That I loaded the harness incorrectly. Was that true? No. Why did you refuse to sign? Because the strap tore before the buckle moved. He did not ask the court to punish anyone. He asked that every defective harness be found before another soldier wore one. The room seemed to shrink around the broken blue strap on the evidence table. Miriam Shaw presented the financial trail. Blackwater Weave had no factory engineers or testing staff. It purchased inexpensive industrial webbing and resold it to ForgeLine through 2 holding companies controlled by Preston. $5,700,000 moved through those accounts. Part paid Victor's private mortgage. Part funded Preston's company. The rest paid advisors preparing ForgeLine for sale. A representative from the investment group confirmed that Victor had concealed Caleb's accident, the failed laboratory results, the supplier relationship, and my disputed signature. Would your company have proceeded with the purchase if those facts were disclosed? Celia asked. No. The forged material approval appeared next. My electronic signature sat beneath language approving Blackwater and accepting the reduced safety margin. The examiner explained that the signature came from my Army instructor certificate. The document was created while I attended my mother's funeral in Virginia. Flight records, hotel receipts, and the funeral program established where I was. Judge Price looked at Victor. Who authorized the material substitution? Lieutenant Colonel Ellison. How could she approve a lot number that did not exist until 14 months after this document was supposedly signed? Victor reached for his water. His hand stopped before touching the glass. My legal department prepared the form. His attorney looked at him. Judge Price opened the Safety Authority waiver. This waiver also refers to Falcon Reach, Mark II, a product that did not exist on the printed date. It memorialized an earlier agreement. Using a QR system, ForgeLine adopted only 9 months ago. Victor did not answer. The judge placed the forged waiver beside the shipping records. Which came first, Lieutenant Colonel Ellison's lawful removal from the safety board or your first shipment of defective material under her copied signature? The shipment came first. The waiver was created later. The family resolution came later still. Victor had not removed my authority before using my name. He had used my name first, then manufactured reasons why no one should believe me. Celia displayed Victor's email to Preston. Once the family accepts she never completed, basic her signature will matter more than her denial. Victor turned toward his son. You selected Blackwater. You told me to create it, Preston said. You negotiated the pricing. You set the margin. You approved the shipments. You said the contract would collapse if we stopped. Victor pointed toward Bethany. Quality control should have blocked the material. Bethany answered evenly. I blocked it 3 times. You overruled me. Then he looked at me. You abandoned this family for the Army. You appeared only when there was something to inherit. I came home for my mother's surgery. You left again. I completed what I had begun. You miss years of this company. My absence did not give you permission to copy my signature. You always believed you knew better. No. I looked at Caleb's torn harness. You denied my service because you needed my real signature and my silence at the same time. Judge Price folded her hands. Mr. Ellison, were you protecting ForgeLine or using a false military history to place defective rescue equipment in the hands of soldiers? Victor looked toward his attorneys. Neither answered for him. The court restored my voting rights and safety authority. The training separation notice and safety authority waiver were declared fraudulent. Every Falcon Reach harness containing Blackwater material was ordered recalled. The federal contract was suspended for independent testing. The sale of ForgeLine was blocked. Blackwater's accounts were frozen. The $5,700,000 became subject to tracing and recovery. Victor lost all operating authority. The records were referred for investigation, involving procurement fraud, forged signatures, false statements, concealed product defects, and transfers through shell companies. An independent administrator took control so innocent employees would not lose their jobs because of the people above them. A protected fund covered Caleb's treatment and reviewed injuries connected to the defective equipment. I did not smile when the ruling ended. Victor losing control did not heal Caleb's fractures. It did not erase the 600 harnesses shipped after his fall. It did not change the relatives who laughed when my mother's hospital room became a family joke. But the next defective shipment never left the factory. That was the victory that mattered. Several relatives apologized. Some claimed they believed Victor because he had repeated the story for years. Others called it harmless teasing. I accepted apologies only from those willing to correct the lie publicly and assist with the recall. A joke stops being harmless when someone uses it to hide a signature, a shipment, or an injured soldier. Victor requested a private meeting. I refused. Every communication passed through Celia and the independent board. Forgiveness might end anger one day. It would not return safety authority to the man who forged it. I did not become chief executive. We formed a board that included independent engineers, veterans, employees, auditors, and one family representative without unilateral power. Bethany became director of compliance. Gabriel created a field user review program. Caleb joined the recovery advisory group after his doctors cleared him, but we never used his injury in advertising. 1 year later, ForgeLine completed the recall. Falcon Reach was redesigned and tested publicly. The old laboratory reopened as the Judith Ellison Safety Laboratory. The torn blue webbing remained inside a sealed display case. My mother's sentence appeared beneath it. A safety margin is the distance between profit and a funeral. Gabriel's challenge coin rested beside my old brass whistle. He once asked why I had not produced my service record at the cookout. Because a man who thinks your silence proves his lie will usually show everyone what he plans to buy with it. My uncle turned 4 days beside my mother into years of family gossip. He called me unqualified because qualified eyes would have stopped the shipment. The Green Beret remembered his instructor. The broken harness remembered the material they replaced. They mocked my silence until the records began speaking in dates. A forged signature can approve a shipment. It cannot make weak material hold. Victor needed my service to be fake, so his use of my name could appear real. The table went quiet when Gabriel recognized me. The courtroom went quiet when the money recognized Victor. Now tell me where you stand. Which betrayal was worse, turning the days I spent beside my mother's hospital bed into a family joke, or using that lie to keep defective rescue equipment in soldiers' hands? Comment the lie. If the humiliation crossed the line, or the harness, if risking another soldier's life was unforgivable. One betrayal attacked my name. The other placed a price on whether someone returned home alive. I would be honored if you liked this story, shared it with someone who has been mistaken for weak because they stayed calm, and joined me again for another story about dignity, evidence, and the truth that finally becomes too strong to carry in silence.